Hello, middle 3 students. We are going to continue the last part in lesson 1. It's titled with relative speed. Relatives means something relative to another thing. It means حاجة نسبية. يعني something relative to another. هنشوف ازاي الموضوع ده. Uh, Here is an example can explain the relative speed in a simple way. We have three cars here. Car A moves in this direction to the east direction and with 30 kilometers per hour. Car B 80 kilometers per hour and car C in the opposite direction by 40 kilometers per hour. And here is someone called the observer. The observer is the one we can measure the relative speed for any moving object relative to this observer. But also it depends on the position of the observer. For example, calculate the relative speed of car B relative to an observer. If this of this observer standing on the ground, this is the first case. The second case, if this observer inside or sitting inside car A, this means it's sitting in a moving object A, and if this observer is sitting in the car C. Okay, so we are going to take the relative speed of car B to an observer standing on the ground in car A and then in car C. Let's see the three cases. Case number one, if the observer is standing on the ground, so its speed is equal zero, is equal zero. Let's go to the rule. Also, all the time, the relative speed equals the real speed minus the observer speed. The relative speed of any object means equal the real speed minus the observer speed. هنا real speed 80 kilometers per hour. طب observer speed, this one doesn't move. It means its speed equals zero. So here the relative speed will be equal the real speed. يعني هنا لو هو واقف هيشوف the speed of car be 80 kilometers per hour. Then it is the real speed. It is the real speed. Okay كده؟ Second case, if the observer is sitting in car A, it means the observer and the object اللي هو الcar moving in the same direction but with two different speeds. Here, the relative speed will be the real speed, which is 80, minus the observer speed, which is 30. It means 50 kilometers per hour. يعني لو أنا قاعد in car A هشوف car B كأنها ماشية only with 50 kilometers لأن أنا already بتحرك. دي minus دي. Okay? Third case, if I'm sitting in car C, it means that I'm moving in the opposite direction. في الحالة دي لو طبقنا القانون the real speed أهي minus the observer speed بس observer speed in opposite direction يعني minus السبيد بتاعته هنا بالماينس بالنسبة لي يبقى minus the observer speed minus معناها ايه؟ معناها plus. يبقى it means that relative speed للcar B will be the real speed للcar B plus observer speed اللي قاعد في كار سي يعني 80 plus 40 it means 120. معناها ان انا لو قاعد في كار سي هشوف كار بي وهي جايه عكس اتجاهي اسرع من المتوقع طبيعي لانها جايه بسرعه وانا كمان ماشي بسرعه بس في الناحيه الثانيه. So it is going to be 120 kilometers per hour. هنا 3 cases. هيبقى عندنا fourth case بس we will discuss it later. Here is the relative speed. It is the speed of a moving object relative to an observer. It is the speed of a moving object relative to an observer. Notes. Type. تعال نشوف النوتس عندي. When the observer is moving in the same direction and with the same speed. تعالوا نرجع كده. In the same direction with the same speed. يعني هنا لو الobserver ماشي 80 والobject ماشي 80. في الحالة دي relative speed will be 80 minus 80 will be 0. يبقى in the same direction with the same speed. يبقى relative speed will be equal 0. Type. Second point in our notes, Measuring the relative speed depends on the position of the observer. طبعا ده شيء طبيعي. لو الobserver is standing on the ground يبقى the relative speed will be هي equal the real speed. لكن if it's moving in the same direction but with different speed معناها ان relative speed بتساوي real speed minus observer speed. لكن لو observer in moving object in opposite of the real speed object هنبقى ايه relative speed will be real speed plus observer minus يعني plus observer speed. عندنا هنا موفي صغير. الموفي ده هنشوفه مع حضراتكم دلوقتي على موضوع relative speed. Here is the relative motion. Now let's go back to our slides, PowerPoint slides. Now we saw here a small movie explaining the position of the how the position of the observer affect on the relative speed. Okay, in the three cases, and the fourth case if both of them move in the same direction. Let's go to this small part to summarize what we just said here. Here, if the observer is static motion, static means it's at rest, okay? The relative speed here will be equal to the real speed. If the observer is moving in the same direction, if it's at the same speed, the relative speed equal zero. At different speed, real speed minus observer speed. But if it is in the opposite direction, it means that the relative speed will be the real speed plus the observer speed. Let's go to examples. Here are two cars, A and B, two moving objects in the same direction. If I'm sitting in car B, the relative speed will be for car A will be what? The relation will be, or the equation is going to be the relative speed, the real speed minus the observer. Real speed is 40, minus the observer is 30. It means the relative speed will be 10 meters per second. In the other one, if I am here in car B and the relative speed of car A will be equal in the opposite direction, minus minus means plus. It means 80 plus 50, 130 in total. Okay. Now let's go to the final questions. Some of the questions here, right or wrong, please read carefully. Relative speed equal the total distance covered by a moving object divided by the total time to take to cover this distance. Total and total. Total and total is not the relative speed. It is an average speed. It is an average speed. The second one, speedometer, is a device used to determine the time of the car directly. Speedometer, it's measuring what? Is it the time or something else? I think it's measuring the speed. So this one also is wrong. What's meant by the distance covered by an object changed by 10 meters each 2 seconds. 10 meters each 2 seconds. We knew that the speed is the change in the object position. It means that the speed equal what here? 10 meters as a distance, 2 seconds is the time. It means that the object move with a speed of 5 meters per second. Second one, the average speed of a moving car is 70 kilometers per hour. We can say here the answer in two different ways. The first one, we can say, what is average speed? We can see here that average is total distance covered by a moving object divided by total time taken. Time. We can answer it, the total distance divided by the total time taken to cover this distance is 70 kilometers per hour. Here is the first answer. There is another one. It means that the total distance covered by an object is 70 kilometers. Total distance. هنا خلاص. Divided by in a total time of 1 hour. In a total time of 1 hour. نفس الكلام. Total distance و total time. يوم كلها divided واقولها على بعضها او هنا افسرها انها 70 kilometers. دي total distance divided by total time. Here is another one. When does the relative speed of a moving object equal double of its real speed? Let me think. Relative speed equal double real. طب انا لو عندي relative speed for example 100 equal للreal speed هتبقى 50 في الحالة دي. تبقى الobject speed ماله؟ لازم يكون 50 وبلس. يعني ايه 50 وبلس؟ يعني يكون another 50. طب امتى هيكون بلس؟ لو هو in the same direction or in opposite direction. It's going to be plus means in opposite direction. It means opposite direction with the same speed. في الحالة دي لو عملنا adding للopposite للreal speed أو moving object speed plus observer speed هتطلع double لو they are the same. يبقى when the observer moves in opposite direction at the same speed of a moving object. Type another one. When does the relative speed of a moving object half its real speed؟ بسيطة نحط الريلاتيف سبيد هي اللي ب 100 كويس؟ الريلاتيف سبيد هي اللي ب 100 او 50 خليها هي اللي 50 والريل سبيد ب 100. طب لما يكون الريلاتيف سبيد ب 100 يبقى معناها والتوتال 50 يبقى لازم 100 minus 50 لازم تبقى minus 50. يبقى معناها ايه؟ ان الاوبزرفر in the same direction بس with the same speed كانت بقت زيرو. لا with half speed كويس؟ او الموفينج اوبجكت دبل الاوبزرفر سبيد. هنا دبل اوبزرفر او الاوبزرفر half of the moving object. الاثنين ينفعوا. عوض بقيم او values في الايكويشن بتاعتك. Final question. What is the relative speed of car A to an observer standing beside the road? Car A beside the road. هنا اللخبطه كلها يا جماعه ان في كار A وكار B كده وماشيين عكس بعض. فحضرتك ممكن تتخيل ان الريلاتيف سبيد هنا في الحاله دي دي ماينس دي او دي بلس دي وتقول 50 على طول. يا جماعه كار A والاوبزرفر standing beside the road، يعني واقف هنا. كار B دي محطوطه بس كده فيك. يبقى هنا الريل سبيد بتاعتي و I am standing on the ground يعني سرعتي زيرو، يبقى the answer is going to be 25 meter per second. That was the last for the lesson one, and we had some practice answers, some practice and some problems, okay, and some exercises. We answered together. I hope that we are going to continue answering questions in all the books that you have, and see you next time, inshallah.